Never seen it before, but glad to have you. Glad you're here. All right, let me get the other camera going here. Good morning. Today I want to talk to you about a couple of attitudes that are contrasting. Yesterday I compared a couple of attitudes that are so very similar to each other, complacency and resignation, that you've got to listen closely to the common phrases to be able to distinguish one from the other. Now, they're both very similar in nature, but they have significantly different outcomes. The impact that they can have in your organization, resignation versus complacency, are significantly different. That's the reason we've identified both of them as opposed to just one of them or rolled them all together to say, oh, it's a bad attitude. But today I want to look at a contrast between two extreme opposite ends, two different attitudes that I think are very demonstrative in the workplace, and attitudes that are in school, they're in driving, they exist just about everywhere. And that's the attitude of entitlement as compared to the attitude of excellence. Now, I'm just going to share a couple of stories with you today. I've put the common phrases on the screen. I put the impact that you can expect in the workplace or in any environment where these attitudes are prevalent. I've put those in the text as well. I want you to be able to take those home with you and utilize them. But I'm just going to put the whole thing in context today so that you can see where those attitudes might show up and have an idea when you see or hear them what kind of things that would lead to just by what's on the screen. Now, when we do this as a training, it's usually 3 to 4 hours worth of training because we want to interact. There are going to be other phrases that are uttered by people who have these same kind of attitudes, and you'll recognize them, and you'll recognize them in other behaviors as well, and that's really what I want to point out today. So my first story is a driving experience because I honestly was under the impression that entitlement was a financial rewards kind of an idea, that it had to do with you owe me, I'm going to get mine, I want to make sure that I get what I'm worth, that if I'm going to put in the time, I'm going to get exactly what I'm paid for it. In fact, I'm only going to do exactly what I get paid for. So until you're going to give me a raise, I'm not doing any more. That's kind of the nature of entitlement. And generally speaking, I felt like it was limited to an imbalance of rewards versus effort. That people felt like, well, I should get that just because I am. And you can't make me do that, and you can't talk to me like that. Those were the kinds of things that I had experienced up until this one particular moment. I moved to a new city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex of Texas. And in this new city, our insurance rates went up like 15 to 20% just because we changed zip codes. I mean, they're only 25 miles apart, but our rates went up 20%. And I'm like, I don't get this. How could that be? Until the first day, as we were still moving furniture into the house, I took all the people who were helping me, mostly teenagers, and said, hey, let me buy you lunch. And so we went to Cece's Pizza, which is the only place you can feed a bunch of teenage boys affordably, because it's an all-you-can-eat buffet to include desserts and salads and soups and pizza. And it's awesome for feeding teenage boys. Not the greatest food, certainly not that healthy for you, but it'll fill them up. And as we were driving to Cece's Pizza, I'm driving down a 6-lane road with a dedicated turn lane, and I pull into the dedicated turn lane as I'm watching the oncoming traffic coming at me, ready to make my left turn into the parking lot. Over here to my right is a person who's been sitting in a parking lot waiting to cross all 7 lanes of traffic, 3 lanes going each way and the turn lane. And as they pull up and stop, they see me pull up and stop. Now I'm on the main roadway, they're in a parking lot. And just as I get ready to go, I realize they are zooming across the road in front of me because they feel like they've got enough gap between the cars coming behind me and the cars coming at me to get across the road. They are completely ignoring the fact that I'm on the main roadway in the turn lane. Legally speaking, I have exactly the same right of way as all of those cars that are passing. They don't care about that. They feel like I've been here longer, I'm going. This is not a stop sign. This is not even a full intersection. It's parking lot entries on either side of a main highway. But they zoom out in front of me and then flip me off. And I'm like, hello, the one finger wave? You just drove in front of me in an illegal fashion. If I hit you, you would be the one to get the ticket. But you want to give me the one finger salute. I don't even understand this. And before I could even get past my dumbfoundedness, a car from the other side did exactly the same thing. As if me sitting in the turn lane, I was invisible. I didn't realize I'd turned on my cloaking device. And after the third or fourth car went through, I was looking at my wife going, are we not here? Am I in some other time and space? And I realized that the attitude of entitlement doesn't stop at paychecks. It doesn't stop with the young lady at the counter who doesn't really want to wait on you because her friend's been texting her for 15 minutes and she really needs to get back to this text. And so she's going to be as rude to you as possible to get you away from the counter as quickly as possible. And yes, that happens in just about every environment when your clerk has an attitude of entitlement. They feel like your presence as a customer is an interruption to the other things that they had to do. They have to stop their life to do their job. How horrible is that? And yet that kind of attitude permeates a workplace so very quickly, and the classroom. As I mentor in high schools, I can tell you there are students that I deal with that they're entitled, even in the classroom. I've watched as I sit in the chair in the corner waiting my turn to speak to them, that the teacher will say, okay, if you guys would put your phones away and pay attention to our guest. And most of them look up at the teacher as if to say, who are you to tell me to put my phone away? And they just keep going. They keep texting. If they do put their phone away, they'll kind of put it away and they'll put it down in their lap and then they'll lay their head down on their desk and say, can I just relax my head because I have a headache? And all the while they've got their phone going nuts underneath their desk. They're just using the ruse of a headache to avoid paying attention. Or they just put their headphones in and put their hoodie up and put their phone back in their pocket and just keep jamming out to whatever they're jamming out to, because they're entitled to do whatever it is that they want to do without regard for the rules, the consequences, or the circumstances that have to do with anybody else. Well, let me take that same entitlement attitude to another scenario. We were standing in line on a very busy Monday morning, headed to a meeting where I was speaking about leadership. And the person who was hosting me and leading the meeting that I was speaking for said, hey, let's stop at Starbucks. I'd like to grab you a cup of coffee. So we stood in line in a very busy Starbucks. They didn't have a drive-through, so everybody was fighting to get a parking space. Everybody was trying to get through the line as quickly as possible. And as is typical in a place like that, it was pretty loud, a lot of people talking, and we were trying to have a conversation as well. And this particular lady walks in the door. She's on the phone. She gets exasperated that she has to put her friend on hold to get her Starbucks card to come up on her phone so she can pay. And then she goes back to her conversation, and she's talking so loud in her phone conversation that everybody else can hear it. And she does that, I don't want makeup on my phone thing, so I'm going to hold my phone out here and yell at my phone because, from here to here is such a huge difference in the microphone, right? But I'm going to hold it out here and yell at it and then ask you to speak louder because I don't have my phone to my ear. So now everybody in the room is involved in her conversation. And this goes on for several minutes as there's a huge line and we're waiting for coffee. Finally, a coffee comes to the counter. The barista has finished making it. They just set it on the counter. Without regard for the 10 or 12 people waiting to pick up their coffee or their drink or whatever their designated order was, she presumes that it's hers, grabs it and takes a drink out of it, and then just throws a hissy fit because it doesn't taste like what she expected it to taste like, because what she ordered and what was in that cup were two totally different things. Never at any moment did she ask the name that was called out, nor did she read the label on the cup to see if her name was on it, nor did she read the label on the cup to see what drink was in the cup. Her selfish bubble was getting so large that it not only overwhelmed the rest of the building with her phone conversation, with her right to have that conversation right now, it overwhelmed the building with her right to be the first one in line to get her coffee. And so everyone else just kind of stood around looking, going, how does she get her drink before everybody else who's standing in line gets their drink? And really, what happened was she stole someone else's drink. Ironically, after taking one drink of it and spitting it on the floor because it wasn't what she expected to get, she yelled at the barista for making her drink wrong. Now think just how deeply entitled you must be to not only feel like you have the right to come into a place of business like that and dominate the conversation, talking louder than everyone else, sharing your conversation with everyone else, whether they wanted to hear it or not, to manage your way through the line, completely ignoring the people who are serving you, and then skip in front of everyone else who's waiting to get their drink, steal someone's drink, and then blame it on somebody else. That's entitled. And it doesn't stop there. Let me give you one more story. My wife and I, it's been several months ago now, went to a studio movie grill. And we ordered from the menu the chicken barbecue flatbread. And we waited for the movie to start. And finally, just as the movie was starting, they bring in a pizza. And they set it in front of my wife, and the young man says, "Here you go. Here's your order." And she goes, "No, I ordered the barbecue chicken flatbread." He said, "That's a pizza, right?" She said, "Well, it's like a pizza, but it's a flatbread." He said, "Well, that's what you ordered." She said, "That's not what I ordered." And I looked at it and I went, "No, that's sausage and pepperoni on a round pizza. What she ordered is a flatbread, which is more of a square thing, and it's less crust. And barbecue sauce and marinara sauce don't look the same, and chicken and pepperoni, they don't look the same, and that's not what she ordered." Reluctantly, and I mean with a significant attitude, he snatches the pizza up, takes it back to the kitchen. He's gone 4 or 5 minutes. He comes back, sets it down. He says, "Here's your barbecue chicken flatbread." And I looked at it and I went, I don't know which one of us is smoking something, but we need to share better, because that is the same pepperoni sausage pizza you delivered me 5 minutes ago, only now it's colder, and we ordered a barbecue chicken flatbread. I said, "Can you bring me a menu?" He said, "It doesn't matter if I bring you a menu. This is what you ordered. This is your pizza." I said, "We didn't order a pizza. We ordered..." This conversation is mind-boggling to me, that I know what I ordered. I asked him to show me the menu so I could point to the picture of the thing that we ordered. He refused to show it. I said, "Let me show the order that you wrote down." What he wrote down, he wouldn't show me. And I'm like, I don't care what the kitchen gave you. I don't even care what you told the kitchen. What we ordered, what we intend to pay for, is a barbecue chicken pizza. Flatbread. This goes back and forth several minutes. Finally, the kitchen manager comes out, and I said, we ordered a barbecue chicken flatbread, and he brought us a pepperoni and sausage pizza. That's a pretty significant difference. And the manager of the kitchen goes, "Well, don't give my guys a hard time about that." I'm like, hello? I thought it was customary that if the customer ordered something, what the customer ordered is what you're supposed to deliver to the customer. He said, "You don't have any right to talk negative to me like that." And I'm like, wow. I'm dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. Finally, he goes back, makes another pizza, comes back, and it's the buffalo chicken flatbread. And I'm like, "That's buffalo sauce, not barbecue sauce." He said, "That's the only chicken we have." I said, "Well, then why didn't you just tell me you were out of barbecue chicken pizzas?" He's like, "Oh, no, that's not what I mean. We make them fresh." Oh, so you make them fresh. That means you have all the ingredients to make whatever we ordered. And we ordered the one that looked like the picture that said barbecue chicken flatbread. And he said, "This is it." And I said, "No, that's the spicy buffalo chicken. I can smell the buffalo sauce from here." He's like, "Well, you can take this one or not." And I'm like, really? Another 5 or 10 minutes goes by. We're now into the movie. We're still debating over what a barbecue chicken flatbread looks like. Finally, they bring the barbecue chicken flatbread. And when I get my ticket, all 3 pizzas are on my ticket. They expect me to pay for the 2 things they delivered me wrong and the one we finally ate. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. The bill was over $60. I was not a happy camper. Apparently that night, I was not the only one. There were about 15 people after the movie that was over that were standing back there harassing the manager about tickets that were wrong, orders that were wrong, food that was delivered during the middle of the movie when everybody else was done eating before the movie started. It was amazing disaster. But both our server and the manager had an unbelievable attitude of entitlement. They felt like our existence and our expectation, which is another attitude that I teach on, that our expectation to get what we ordered was an imposition on their life, that we had no right to be upset about it, that we had no right to speak back about it, that we should accept what they delivered us and just get over it. If we ordered mac and cheese and got cat food, we should be pleased that we got cat food. That was kind of the whole attitude that they had, the whole attitude of entitlement. I left a business card, I left a phone call, I sent an email to the GM of that studio movie girl. Not one reply. Not one reply. They couldn't care less. I did a video live from the parking lot. This is the experience that I just had. This is the building. These are the people. Not one reply. Studio Movie Grill does not care about your customer satisfaction. Not one iota. 2 nights later, we stopped in, and I'm going to now contrast this with the attitude of excellence. We stopped into a place called Wing Bucket. And in the Wing Bucket, we ordered a particular type of barbecue. And when it came to the table, it looked like, rather than the wings being tossed in barbecue sauce, like one might expect, because that's what it says on the menu, it looks like somebody threw them in the bucket and threw barbecue sauce from across the room. I mean, it barely hit them. There was more barbecue sauce on the paper than there was on the wings, and it tasted burnt. I mean, it looked like the barbecue sauce had been left in the crock pot way too long. It was bad. And the young lady brought it by the table, and I took one bite, and I went, wow, this is only our first experience here, but based on this and compared to the Studio Movie Grill, we may not be back. I didn't even say any of that. I just said, is this the way the barbecue sauce is supposed to taste? Because it tastes a little burnt to me. 30 seconds later, the manager's at my table. He said, what seems to be the issue? I said, I thought there'd be a little more barbecue sauce on it, but the barbecue sauce that is on it doesn't taste right to me. It tastes a little scorched. He said, let me take care of that. Takes the entire plate off the table, comes back to the table in 2.5 minutes. The order is completely remade from scratch and made by the manager, obviously, because everything is done right. Fresh barbecue sauce, freshly made, completely dipped, the whole thing. And he's like, if you ever have another issue, let me know. We see Jason in there on a regular basis. It's one of our favorite places to go, especially on Tender Tuesday when everything is half price. It's pretty awesome to know, though, that the attitude of excellence that he demonstrates in front of his employees, that demands diligence, determination, dignity, and discipline. The ability that he has to run his store by being out there talking to customers and taking care of the customer. Now, I'm sure if we were rude to his people, he would let us know that. But that we have the expectation that the thing that we order is what we get, I think that's a reasonable expectation. And I find that Jason, as a manager, holds that same expectation, not only for himself and his place of business, but for every employee who walks in the door. Now, they have some rules that sometimes get bent and sometimes there's no fix on. For an example, most of the time when I eat, I drink water. Well, their cups, all their in-house cups, are clear plastic, and they're big, clear plastic cups. But it's common for people, because there's no difference between those cups and any other cups, people will go in and say, I'm just going to drink water. And because it's self-serve, they'll drink soda or tea and lots of it and refill the cup 900 times. And so they give a tiny little plastic squishy cup when you order water. And so many times I've said, can I just get the regular size cup for water? I only drink water. And if the manager is around, he'll say it's okay for him because I know he's going to drink water, and I'll be at his table to chat with him in a little bit, and we'll verify that he's just drinking water, and I don't have any problem with that. But if he's not standing there, I've had them charge me $2 for a regular cup to drink water out of. And I give them a little pushback on it, and they say, this is the cup for regular drinks, this is the cup for water. Right? It's a rule. And I understand it because the business gets taken advantage of. That's not entitlement. That's excellence, and that's good business management. The last time I was in there, I told Jason, I said, from now on, I'm just going to bring in my stainless steel water bottle and fill it up at your fountain with water, or give it to you and let you fill it with water. But drinking out of this tiny little cup that squishes water all over the table when I pick it up, that's not funny. And he just kind of laughed. He said, I don't care if you bring your water bottle, just fill it with water. The ability to have an honest conversation when you operate with an attitude of excellence goes way higher than when you have an attitude of entitlement that says, as the employee, as the business manager, the customer doesn't matter. I'm going to take care of my team and I'm going to take care of me. Don't interrupt my day with your demands as a customer. Now, there are many other environments where the attitude of excellence and the attitude of entitlement are at war with one another. It's the way that leaders treat their team. It's the way that parents treat their children, that children treat their parents or their grandparents. And sometimes those expectations that are not clearly enumerated are difficult to meet. But the attitude of entitlement can destroy a workplace. It is a cancer. It is a cancer. And like I've said before, attitudes are more contagious than the common cold. You get 2 or 3 people in your workplace or your school or your relationships who have the attitude of entitlement, and you will find soon that they have infected a lot of other people with that same attitude, and it can destroy your place of business. If you see those common phrases that are on the screen about the attitude of entitlement, if you see those start to rise up, if you start hearing people talk like that, you need to be able to combat it quickly. Now, in the last video in this section, we're going to talk about the 5 steps. We've already talked about identifying the attitudes by understanding the phraseology and how they implement themselves. We've already talked about the awareness that you've got to listen for your own phrases as well as others, because those are the lead indicators of the attitude that's driving you. We've already talked about the fact that an attitude is, by definition, what you think about how you feel and how you feel about what you think. Thought, feeling, attitude. That's the equation. Thought plus feeling equals attitude. When you understand that that is the attitude, and the expression of it usually comes in phrases, and that the difference between the attitudes is so significant because it's an underlying operating system for people in your workplace, your school, even your clients. And how you deal with them must be adapted a little bit based on the attitude that they have and the attitude that you have. What we will discuss in the next video, and the final video for this set, is how specifically do you walk through the 5-step process of managing difficult attitudes? How do you walk through the 5-step process of managing difficult attitudes and begin to change them? And I'm going to teach that from a very high level in the last video in this series. That will be tomorrow, and I hope that you will be here for that. I hope that you'll be ready to chime in with that and leave some comments and suggestions as well. Love to know your thoughts on this video series. I'd love the idea that you would share them with other people if you feel like it's been powerful and impactful. And for what it's worth, there's a full half-hour teaching just on the attitude of entitlement. It's one of the most viewed videos in the podcast. If you just go to my YouTube channel, J Loren Norris, and search for Attitude of Entitlement, there's a pretty in-depth teaching just on that one attitude. So feel free to check that out and share that as well. But be here for the next video, and we will talk about the 5 steps to leading difficult attitudes. I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.